What's up, you guys? It's another episode of Tutoring with Mr. Sorrells, and today we're going to be going over ecology. So grab your notes, grab your pens, your papers, your pencils, whatever you need in order to be successful, because Mr. Sorrells is about to take off. All right? So today, going over ecology. Let's just start off with some basic terms that you guys need to know and remember. Organisms. Organism, or an organism, is one specific thing in a area. One specific thing in a area. A population is the same species living in the same area. Notice the pattern of these. Community, different subpopulations, same area. Ecosystem, abiotic factors in a community. Biome, a specific region, similar ecosystem, plants, and animals. And a biosphere is all life on Earth. So those are just some key terms that I want you guys to remember. Symbiosis. What is symbiosis? Sim means with, bio means life. So symbiosis is all life. All right? So even then, let's keep going. Ecology, we talked about a lot about relationships, how one might benefit, how one might be harmed. Let's go over those different types. Commensalism, one benefits, one is not affected. Predation, one is killed, one eats. What's another one? Mutualism, both of them are benefited. Parasitism, one is benefited, one is harmed. And do I got any more on here that I want you guys to remember? Abiotic is non-living things, such as water, temperature, air, and the sun. Biotics are living things. So examples of biotics will be plants, animals, and people. All right, plants, animals, and people. Biotic factors. Abiotic factors are more things like the sun, water, air, things that don't grow and we can't control. All right. Native species. That just means that you're from here. What I mean by here, the United States. Your animal was born here. Invasive species. Invasive species are brought here. All right, they usually cause harm to the environment or mess up ecosystems, but not all the time. Invasive species just mean you're not from here. And if they help, if the species that is brought is not native, but it's not invasive, meaning hurtful, that means non-native species. That means it just doesn't live here. It's in its kind of own little world doing its own thing. What else? Let's talk a little bit about primary succession and secondary succession. So, speaking of primary succession, I want you guys to think about this brand new clean penny, courtesy of Coach Lamone. It's a 2017 clean penny, and it is fresh to death. All right. So, primary succession. Take this penny, for example. This penny is clean. It doesn't have a whole bunch of marks. It doesn't have a whole bunch of dirt. For the most part, it's a pretty clean, fresh penny. Compared to this penny, that's kind of dirty. It got a little dirt on it. It's darker. It's brown. It look a little bit more Primary succession is like this clean penny right here. Barren, new land, no soil, no dirt, just flat surface, ground, ready to be dirtied up, ready to be grown up on, ready to be developed. Like this penny is ready to be spent. This penny has not paid for anything yet because it's too clean. So if this penny passes through many different hands, maybe I give it to you, you give it to mom, you give it to mom, give it to dad, dad give it to sister. By that time, the penny is going to occur some changes, right? it's gonna start to get a little darker. It'll start to get a couple of black spots on it, maybe some dirt. You know what I'm saying? So understand that primary succession is like a fresh new penny. Clean, nothing on it, ready to be used. Alright? Barren soil is how I remembered it. Barren soil. An example of primary succession would be a volcano. If a volcano erupted, God forbid, today in this room, everything would be lit on fire, nothing would be left, it would be eviscerated, and they would have to build it from ground up. Alright? But in there, we have new vegetation, we have new life, we have new developments able to come about from this disaster that caused us to rebuild, recreate, and redevelop. Alright? Let's move on. Secondary succession. Let me get my penny. Secondary succession is a lot like this penny. Now, this penny is a little darker. This penny has a couple bumps, couple bruises on it. It was made in 2003, so it's a little older. This penny has been through it. But I can tell that this penny has been spent, it has been passed, it has gone through maybe a couple washing machine loads, because this penny has some dirt on it. A lot like secondary succession has some soil on it. Follow me? Think about a hurricane. During a hurricane, a natural disaster comes, right? Much like the volcanic eruption. But where it cuts off and it stops is, after every hurricane that I personally lived through, I still saw grass, I still saw dirt, I still saw houses and skyscrapers and buildings on the land. Well, during secondary succession, that's a blooper. You guys get the all access pass here. Much like this penny, compared to this penny, same amount, same makeup, but this penny has already had some experience rebuilding, restoring, and it doesn't have to start all over. So if you get any more dirt on this penny, it's not gonna make a difference, because now the penny is just changing. You didn't clean it and wash it all the way off to re-dirty it up. It's more of a change than it is a start over. It's more dirty and has some soil than it has clean, barren, brand new copper. I hope you guys get the penny example, because I was really excited for that. But you guys, primary succession, secondary succession, you guys know these things. So let's just wrap it all up together. Primary succession, usually it starts with a natural disaster that leaves no soil, no grass behind, and it ends up developing and growing mosses, grasses, fungi, other little starter plants, as I like to put them, the basic plants that you see on a lot of rocks and a lot of outside surfaces. Once that happens, vegetation begins to grow. Plants, trees, it might be some algae, it might be some sea creatures that start moving around based off of these developments. And then you're able to rebuild and redevelop and bring everything back to life. Secondary is a lot like a hurricane, a natural disaster that comes that changes the environment or changes the community or changes the biome you live in. So even through these natural disasters, we don't have to start completely over. We're just changing some things. We're just rebuilding. So understand the difference between the two. I know it gets confusing, but you guys know this stuff, all right? Before I go, I just want to run over some quick, simple things for you guys, things that I don't want you guys to forget. The carbon cycle, all things are made up of carbon, all right? So everything goes through this carbon cycle. Carbon can be reused. Carbon is released when burning fossil fuels. What are fossil fuels? So when you're driving down the street and you see smoke coming out the back of this big old truck and it's just going. It's just going. Oh, it's going fast. That is fossil fuels. Fossil fuels release carbon into our environment. It's absorbed by our plants and producers. And then 10% of it is passed on to herbivores, or it's released in the form of gas. All right? You guys should already have some background knowledge about the water cycle. The water found above and below the earth, it makes a cycle, goes through the clouds, comes down the clouds, evaporates back up. Boom. We got a rain cycle, water cycle. Nitrogen. We struggled with nitrogen. That gave us a run for our money. Listen, nitrogen is tied with carbon for the most important element for our ecosystem. So when you begin to understand how important nitrogen is to our everyday lives, you see the importance and you start to choose that answer more times than not, correct? So, nitrogen, it makes up 80% of our Earth's air. Nitrogen. The atmosphere's nitrogen cannot be used. We can't use that. We don't want to use that. We don't want to breathe that in. We don't want it. But nitrogen fixation, taking the atmosphere air and converting it into ammonia, is the process of giving us usable nitrogen. So that's a little bit of an explanation on why nitrogen is so important and why we talk to you guys about it, and even the nitrogen fixation process is because we have to convert the air up there to be able to breathe the air down here. It's kind of important. Remember, the nitrogen cycle is the movement of nitrogen through a food chain. So, all nitrogen is just being passed from one organism to another organism. Whether it's plants to humans, consumer to consumer, producer to consumer, nitrogen is being passed. That's what those arrows are for. There's one more thing I want to give you guys before we jump up out of here today. I don't got no more notes. Well, you guys, gonna be great. Tutoring with Mr. Sorrells. Ask questions, take notes, and if you need me, email me. It's Sorrells1@clientisd.net.